Ted Lasso Season 4 Episode 4 just landed, and honestly, I think this might be the most purely fun episode of the season so far. It's called Greyhounds Day Off, which is a little misleading because nobody actually gets a day off. The team ends up in a holding cell by the end of it. But the title fits in its own way, since this is the episode where the team finally stops playing as three separate cliques and starts playing as, well, a team. Before we start, this video contains spoilers. Alright, so episode 4 of Ted Lasso Season 4 is all about one problem. This women's team can play together, but they're not actually a team yet, and there's a difference. After a strong start with a few wins and some draws, Ted notices the squad has quietly split into three little factions. Defenders sticking with defenders, attackers with attackers, midfielders doing their own thing. And Ted, for the first time in this show, genuinely doesn't know how to fix it, the way he used to with the men's team. I think this is such a believable problem for a brand new team to have. Honestly, it's not drama for drama's sake. It's just what happens when a group of strangers gets thrown together with no shared history yet. The show frames it through Trent and Sharon's podcast conversation running underneath the episode, which is a nice touch. It's basically the show explaining its own theme to you without ever feeling like a lecture. Meanwhile, Keeley and Rebecca head to a women's sports summit, and Rebecca's dreading every second of it. Small talk really isn't her thing, but then a keynote speaker named Zelda Southport gets on stage and basically drags the entire room for not doing enough to actually support women's sports. She's blunt, she's funny, and Keeley is immediately obsessed. I'm intrigued by Zelda already, honestly. She's got that too good to be true energy that this show usually does something interesting with eventually, so I guess we'll see which way that goes. Back with Keeley and Roy, their relationship talk resurfaces. Roy wants to get back together. Keeley isn't convinced he's actually ready, since he hasn't dated anyone in years. So they land on this deal. Roy goes on 10 dates first, just to be sure this isn't him settling out of comfort. This is a fair question, honestly, and I like that the show doesn't let Roy just declare he's ready and have that be enough. Feels like the kind of thing that needs to actually be tested, not just decided. Of course, Roy being Roy, he treats go on 10 dates like a chore to knock out as fast as possible. He books multiple dates in the same night, ends up hooking up with a bartender instead, and somehow blows out his knee in the process. I mean, of course he'd try to speedrun this. That's just Roy. It's a pretty funny bit, but it also quietly makes Keeley's earlier point for her. He's not actually engaging with the process. He's just trying to get to the answer. At the hospital, Roy gets absolutely no patience from Dr. Erin Beaumont, who calls him out for ignoring an old injury for years and just self-medicating with painkillers instead of getting it looked at. Honestly, out of everything in this episode, this is the scene that stuck with me the most, not because it's dramatic, but because it's such a quiet little window into who Roy actually is underneath the gruffness. A guy who'd rather grind through pain silently than admit something's wrong. That tracks with basically everything we know about him. And of course he walks out wondering if he can get her number, which I guess that's the show telling us exactly where this is going. Back at the club, Quiz Night returns to the pub, and Beard is thrilled because apparently nobody can beat him. But before they even get there, tension in the locker room finally boils over into an actual physical fight between the cliques. With Coach Chilton unavailable, Ted and Beard have to step in themselves, awkwardly covering their eyes until they're told it's safe to look. That small detail of them literally shielding their eyes is such a perfectly Ted Lasso way to handle an uncomfortable moment with humor, instead of making it weird. So instead of more training, Ted cancels the next session entirely and takes the whole team to Quiz Night, deliberately shuffling the cliques into new mixed teams. And it actually works. The competitive drive to win trivia starts bonding them in a way training drills never could. I think this is a genuinely clever fix, and it's very Ted. He doesn't lecture them about unity. He just engineers a situation where they have to actually depend on each other. Beard being weirdly unbeatable at Quiz Night is a fun detail too. Things shift again when Beard steps away to the bathroom and comes back completely silent for the rest of the night. Turns out he spotted a flyer for his ex-Jane's show, and this time, instead of running from the topic like he usually does, the heartbreak just quietly wrecks him. That's such a subtle gut punch tucked into an otherwise light-hearted episode. Grief doesn't wait for a convenient moment. By the end of Quiz Night, it comes down to the women's team against a group of condescending men from the bar. The women win, and that victory triggers an actual brawl, a window gets broken, and everyone involved gets hauled off to the police station.
There's something almost poetic about a shared enemy being what finally unites this team instead of any coaching strategy at all.
The women are having a great time together in their cell, while the men who started it sit there dejected. Ted's just smiling the whole time because, as far as he's concerned, mission accomplished. By the time Keeley and Rebecca hear about the arrest and rush over, Zelda's already bailed everyone out, using an old favor from a cop who apparently used to buy something questionable from her back in her touring days. She even manages to keep the whole thing off their record and quietly suggests they could spin it into good publicity.
I'm not going to lie, Zelda getting them out using a drug-dealing favor from her old touring days is such a specific, weird detail that I have to assume it's going to matter later. She's clearly playing multiple angles here, and I think Rebecca's hesitation about bringing her on board is probably the right instinct, even if Keeley's too excited to see it yet.
The team gets some good press out of the arrest photo, but their next challenge is a real one. They're playing Chelsea, one of the best teams around, with basically no realistic shot at winning. The team, of course, is thrilled anyway. And in a nice little closing beat, Trent and Sharon, having spent the whole episode discussing the team from a distance, decide to grab coffee together, which feels like it's setting up something between them too.
I like that the Chelsea match is being set up as a probable loss rather than a guaranteed underdog win. It feels more honest to where this team actually is right now. And the Trent-Sharon thing is a nice quiet touch I wasn't expecting, but I guess the show's been building toward it all episode without really announcing it. I thought this was a really solid, genuinely fun episode. Probably one of the better ones this season for just pure enjoyment. The Clique storyline resolves in a way that feels earned rather than forced. Roy's dating subplot is funny while quietly setting up something real with Dr. Beaumont, and Zelda's introduction leaves just enough unanswered questions to keep me curious about where she fits into all this. So that's Ted Lasso Season 4, Episode 4 broken down. If you're into this kind of recap, drop a like and subscribe for the rest of the season. I'll see you in the next one.